This is a terrorist attack targeting all citizens of Gotham, and the initiator of this attack is Batman's fellow trainee. He has a group of absolutely loyal desperados, and a 4-megaton neutron bomb. His only goal is to blow up the whole Gotham City, claiming falsely that he's giving Gotham back to its citizens. There's only one day left until the bomb explodes, but Batman, the only hope to save Gotham, is still locked in a bottomless prison at this point. Can he save Gotham's future? And what will become of his own future? 8 years ago, Harvey, the White Knight, was completely corrupted under the influence of the Joker, and kidnapped Commissioner Gordon's wife and children. To save them, Batman had to break his rule of not killing, which led to Harvey falling to his death. But to preserve the image of the White Knight hero in the hearts of Gotham's people, Batman took all the blame alone. This included the people Harvey had killed after his corruption. In the end, he retired completely. After the new bill was passed, all criminals in Gotham were permanently imprisoned in the heavily guarded Black Mountain prison. But a new threat from the underworld is about to arrive. On the outskirts of Gotham, CIA agents took custody of a group of special prisoners. They were a nuclear physics doctor from Russia, and several lackeys of the masked man Bane. But when the agents tried to interrogate these people at high altitude, the strong man in the middle suddenly spoke. But when they took off his hood, they realized he was none other than Bane. His real goal was to kidnap the nuclear physics doctor, and at the same time, fake the doctor's death in a plane crash. A larger plane approached the private jet, and 4 figures landed quietly on the outside of the jet. At Bane's command, they immediately opened fire fiercely into the cabin. The CIA agents were all killed in an instant. Then they firmly fixed the anchoring devices into the plane. Emergency situation. Under the traction of the large plane, the wings of the small plane were torn off instantly, leaving it completely helpless like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. This crazy way of hijacking a plane was really unexpected. A gap was immediately blown open in the tail of the plane. Several people carried a corpse and climbed into the cabin. They transfused the doctor's blood into the corpse to fake the illusion that the doctor had died in a plane crash. As Bane pressed the button, the whole plane began to fall. The doctor was declared dead in such a silent manner. On the other side, inside Wayne Manor, a memorial ceremony was being held in memory of Harvey, Gotham's White Knight. When Police Commissioner Gordon took the stage to speak, he concealed the truth and praised Harvey with high-sounding words, and it was because of this lie that Batman took the blame for a full 8 years. There was another main character in the manor. She disguised herself as a maid and sneaked into the manor to steal a necklace worth 500 million. Her words and actions deceived everyone in the manor. She sneaked into Bruce Wayne's room under the cover of night, not knowing that every move of hers was being watched by a pair of eyes. As she was looking at the room's furnishings, an arrow suddenly shot straight in front of her, making her scream in fright on the spot. When she turned around, she saw that it was Bruce Wayne. Standing there, she forced herself to stay calm, and still maintained the appearance of an obsequious maid. But Wayne saw the necklace around her neck at a glance. It was a memento of his mother, which should have been kept in an unbreakable safe. Seeing that she could no longer hide the truth, she didn't panic at all. Instead, her expression changed instantly.
I would beat up a cripple. Of course, sometimes exceptions have to be made.
Then she jumped onto the windowsill, and escaped through the window. After leaving the manor, she walked to the front yard, removed her disguise, and casually got into a senior official's luxury car.
Can I have a ride?
You read my mind.
She was none other than Catwoman Selina. In fact, Wayne had already realized that the necklace wasn't the main target. Catwoman's real goal was his fingerprint. Not long after, Selina brought the senior official she had been hanging out with for a few days to a bar. She sat down slowly and took out a fingerprint sample. The buyer had previously promised to help her erase her criminal record, but at this point, it was obvious that the other person planned to kill her to silence her. In the nick of time, the police suddenly burst in. It turned out that because the senior official had disappeared without reason, the police were searching everywhere for him. Selina had already anticipated this step, and used the incident to get herself out of trouble. When the police rushed into the bar, she immediately put on an act. Her pitiful appearance really deceived the police. When Gordon arrived, he mistakenly thought the senior official had been kidnapped by these men, and without hesitation, he followed the gangsters into the sewer. But as soon as the team got into the sewer, they were ambushed, and Gordon was also attacked and knocked unconscious. When he woke up, he had already been taken to Bane, and the scene in front of him made his heart sink. Bane had actually hollowed out the underground of Gotham, forming a huge underground network. Seeing that his lackey had ruined the plan due to recklessness, Bane's face was full of impatience. He raised his hand and strangled that lackey to death. His cruel and fierce look was terrifying. Then one of his men searched Gordon, and found the speech draft that contained the truth about Harvey. In the moment when Bane turned around to read it, Gordon seized the opportunity, rolled into the nearby water tank, and escaped along with the water flow. Luckily, he narrowly escaped with his life. On the same day, Officer Blake, one of Gordon's lackeys, found Bruce Wayne and told him the news that Gordon was injured and in the hospital. At the same time, he solemnly reminded Wayne that a dark organization was rapidly expanding underground in Gotham, and that Gotham now needed Batman to return. Then he pointed out that he knew Wayne was Batman.
But I'm still a believer in the Batman, even if you're not.
Wayne, wearing a mask, secretly visited the hospitalized Gordon. In a weak voice, Gordon told Wayne that the previous victory had only been a lie, that the dark forces had already made a comeback, and that Batman must return. Driven by Blake's plea, Gordon's entrustment, and his sense of responsibility to Gotham, Wayne finally decided to bring the hero back. First, he attended a charity gala, where Catwoman, Selina, was also present. While he was observing, shareholder Tate took the initiative to strike up a conversation with him, but Wayne said, "These kinds of galas are all extravagant wastes, just a way for some old ladies to satisfy their vanity."
Actually, this is my party, Mr. Wayne.
After the awkward conversation ended, Wayne found Selina, invited her to dance, and took back his mother's necklace after the dance. But when Wayne was about to go home, he found that his car was gone.
Your wife said you were taking a cab home.
My wife?
The next day, Wayne went to the company to find Lucius, wanting to discuss the transfer of the group's chairman position, and finally planned to transfer it to Tate. Before leaving, Lucius took him to the arsenal. In the past, Wayne would always customize equipment with him, and now the new Batmobile and Batplane were all ready, except for a minor issue with the autopilot, which Wayne would have to fix himself. After going back, he put on a power assist device. Although it was painful, it allowed his injured leg to walk normally. Alfred told him Bane's story. Bane and Wayne were from the same school, both trained by Ra's al Ghul, but later, Bane was expelled from the school. Someone even Ra's al Ghul found terrifying must be very dangerous, so Alfred persuaded him again not to make a comeback. Not because he was afraid Wayne would fail, but because he was afraid Wayne wanted to fail. This conversation hit a nerve with Wayne. At the same time, Bane had already taken action. He wanted to steal a key stock trading program. His plan was simple and brutal, a direct assault through the main entrance. The security guards were like children in front of him. No one could withstand even 2 of his punches. Soon, everyone in the building was taken hostage, but downloading the program required time. The building was surrounded by police, and Bane, unwilling to wait, released all the hostages. The police were all stunned, and in that moment of distraction, several motorcycles raced out. Each motorcycle had a hostage tied to it as a human shield. The police didn't dare to shoot, so they could only follow in their cars. Suddenly, all the surrounding lights went out, a dark figure flashed by, and one gangster was captured on the spot. The person Bane had been waiting for finally arrived. Batman had indeed appeared, but the ambitious police chief, eager to capture Batman, actually ordered all police forces in the city to abandon the pursuit of Bane and instead surround Batman. Seeing his plan succeed, Bane turned his vehicle around and charged straight at the police convoy, and as expected, no police car stepped forward to stop him. Soon, Batman also stopped the last gangster, but by then the trading program had already finished downloading. Seeing hundreds of police cars converging on him from the front and rear, Batman made a quick decision. He turned around and blew up the trailer behind him. He stepped on the gas and rushed into an alley. The police chief still thought Batman couldn't escape. Suddenly, a huge Batplane rushed out, and all the police could do was watch helplessly. Selina, who hadn't obtained the criminal record erasure program, still didn't give up. She sneaked into Daggett Industries, the company that created the program, and threatened the staff to hand it over. But just then, Bane's men happened to arrive, so Selina had to retreat temporarily. She hadn't run far before being surrounded, but Batman happened to pass by in the nick of time. He took down the gangsters in a few moves. Seeing Bane arriving with reinforcements, the two didn't have time to talk and quickly escaped by aircraft. They had thought this joint battle would bring them closer, but unexpectedly, they went their separate ways that night. The next day, Bruce Wayne found Selina and proposed a cooperation. He hoped she would help Batman find Bane's whereabouts. In exchange, he would hand over the erasure program, and Selina agreed readily. But that night, Batman didn't hand over the program on the spot, citing that it wasn't safe enough for the time being. Selina couldn't help but look displeased, but she still led Batman through the sewers to a hidden hall. But as soon as Batman stepped into the hall, the iron door behind him closed. It turned out that Catwoman, fearing Bane's cruelty, had finally chosen to betray Batman. But when Bane said Mr. Wayne, Selina was shocked to realize that the Batman in front of her was actually Bruce Wayne. Immediately after, the two started fighting without a word. Only the heavy thud of their fists colliding could be heard. Both were from the League of Shadows, but Batman's punches seemed weak. Even when taking Batman's heavy punches head-on, Bane was unharmed. His strength was even more terrifying. He could lift Batman with one hand. This was a complete one-sided crushing in terms of combat power. Batman, who was used to fighting in the dark, tried to use the shadows to maneuver, but Bane himself was born and raised in darkness. Batman's dark tactics were all in vain in front of him. After a flurry of heavy punches, Batman's mask was completely shattered. Bane's tone was full of contempt. He mocked Batman, saying he was probably already dizzy and disoriented by now. Selina looked at the dying Batman. She couldn't hide the distress in her eyes, but there was nothing she could do. Then Bane lifted Batman high up and broke his spine with a knee strike. Then he took out a remote control, calmly pressed the button, and blew up the ceiling above. It turned out this place was directly below Wayne Enterprises' arsenal. Now all the equipment in the arsenal belonged to Bane. These weapons were enough to arm a division. Although Batman was completely defeated, he didn't die. Instead, Bane threw him into a prison that looked like a deep well. The prison held only the most heinous criminals. At this point, Bruce Wayne had lost everything. With the stolen trading program, and the Wayne fingerprints Selina had taken earlier, Bane successfully brought down Wayne Enterprises. The nuclear fusion project he had previously developed could only be handed over to Tate for management. At the same time, Bane's crazy plan continued to move forward. He kidnapped the board members of Wayne Enterprises and forced them to activate the nuclear reactor, modified by the nuclear physics doctor who had previously been fake dead. This nuclear reactor was transformed into a 4-megaton neutron bomb. Even more crazy was that Bane removed the nuclear bomb from its stabilization device. This way, the bomb would detonate automatically in 5 months. The whole Gotham would be blown to the sky. The kidnapping incident alarmed the police. Gordon ordered all police forces in the city to get into the sewers for a search, vowing to round up Bane's gang completely. But all of this had long been anticipated by Bane. Even more ironic was that, in the nick of time, the mayor of Gotham was still leisurely watching a sports event as Bane slowly walked up to the ground from his underground stronghold. The song of a little boy on the street happened to end. Bane's game had only just begun. The moment Bane pressed the detonator, intense explosions suddenly rang out in every corner of Gotham. The police who had just entered the sewers were instantly buried in the ruins. The mayor was also killed in the bombing attack. The whole stadium was reduced to flat ground. Even more terrifying was that several bridges connecting Gotham to the mainland were blown up, one after another. The city instantly became a terrifying isolated island, cut off from the rest of the world. Just as the people fell into panic, Bane appeared with the activated nuclear bomb. His next action was utterly inhumane. He spoke to the nuclear physics doctor, his words full of arrogance, questioning who else could disarm such a device. The doctor replied that only he could do it. The next second, Bane twisted his neck. At this point, no one could stop Bane anymore. He then announced to the whole city that Gotham's citizens were forbidden to leave the city even a single step. If anyone dared to cross the bridges, the nuclear bomb would detonate in advance. All 12 million citizens would be buried with it. Faced with such a threat, even the military could only stand still and watch helplessly as Gotham fell into a desperate situation. But this wasn't the worst part yet. Bane planned to turn Gotham into a complete living hell. He walked to the prison gate, and under everyone's gaze, he took out Gordon's speech draft that had been hidden for 8 years, and made it public via broadcast. The content of the speech revealed that Batman hadn't killed Harvey. Instead, he had once saved Gordon's son's life, yet he had taken the blame for 8 years to preserve Harvey's image. The truth coming from the TV gave Blake a whole new understanding of Gordon and the whole justice system. Then Bane blew up the prison gate and released all the prisoners. A large number of prisoners armed with heavy weapons regained their freedom. They went crazy, rounding up Gotham's privileged class one by one, and throwing them into a makeshift court for trial. The trial results had only 2 outcomes, either the death penalty or exile. The so-called exile was nothing but pushing people into the river, which was essentially no different from the death penalty. Gotham was completely reduced to a law of the jungle living hell. But at this point, Batman, the only one who could save Gotham, was trapped in a desperate situation. Bruce Wayne, with a severely injured spine, was locked in the Deepwell prison, and had almost lost the ability to move. Luckily, an elderly prisoner in the prison was willing to treat him, but the severe pain of the treatment made him pass out several times. In his coma, Wayne even had hallucinations and saw the late Ra's al Ghul. The latter kept provoking him with mocking words, and this anger just gave him the strength to get through the long treatment. In the end, Wayne successfully stood up, and there was finally hope for justice to go back to Gotham. In the days that followed, he exercised every day, with only one thought in his mind: escape from this prison and go back to save his city. But the road to escape was far more difficult than imagined. There was a long gap in the rock wall, and Wayne tried several times but couldn't jump over it. An old man explained to Wayne that jumping over relied not on physical strength but on faith. He also mentioned that a child had successfully jumped over it back then, without any protective measures. What supported the child was the fear of death. Wayne guessed the child was Bane. This time, Wayne refused the safety rope. He finally understood the power of fear, the fear of death, the fear of dying in prison, and the fear of watching Gotham burn while being powerless to stop it. This fear turned into the strongest motivation, allowing him to leap forward and cross the gap. After going back to Gotham, the first thing Wayne did was find Selina. This time, he held nothing back. He handed her the program that could erase her criminal record, and with a firm look in his eyes, he said he needed Selina's help to save Gotham together. Selina originally wanted to take Wayne and leave this dangerous city together, but Wayne firmly refused. It was this choice to sacrifice himself for justice that deeply moved Selina. She finally gave up the idea of escaping, decided to stay and stand up for Batman at the most critical moment. On the other side, Gordon and his team were accidentally captured. While searching for the nuclear bomb, the judge immediately held a trial and sentenced them to exile. Just as everyone walked tremblingly onto the ice, about to face death, the guards suddenly fell to the ground one after another, amid the roaring flames. A huge bat symbol was clearly branded on the bridgehead. This was the announcement of Batman's return. At the same time, the Batplane broke through the sewer blockade, and the Gotham police, who had been trapped for days, finally saw the light of day again. A great battle broke out in an instant. Thousands of police officers with conventional weapons faced off against armed militants equipped with heavy firepower. Judging from the strength gap, this was undoubtedly like throwing eggs at a stone, but not a single police officer chose to back down. The belief in justice had long outweighed the fear of death. With the Batplane joining the battle, the police's morale soared, and they all charged at the enemy. Even though the enemy had heavy weapons, while they only had conventional guns and smoke grenades, it didn't shake their determination to protect Gotham at all. The battlefield soon turned from a gunfight to close combat, and Batman faced Bane again in the crowd. This time, Batman showed no fear. With his agile skills, he took the opportunity to shatter Bane's breathing mask. Without the mask, Bane was in unbearable pain, and his combat power dropped sharply. He could only do his best to end the fight quickly. Batman seized the opportunity and knocked Bane down in one move. At this point, Bane was powerless to resist, lying on the ground dying. Victory seemed within reach. But just as he was pressing for the location of the nuclear bomb detonator, a dagger suddenly stabbed into his waist from behind. Tate, holding the detonator, was looking at him with a cold smile. The truth was finally revealed. Tate was the child who had escaped from the Deepwell prison back then, and she was also Ra's al Ghul's daughter. Bane had guarded her in prison back then, and was seriously injured because of it, having to rely on a breathing mask to relieve his pain. As she spoke, she put the mask back on Bane, but when she pressed the detonator, she didn't hear the expected explosion. It turned out that Gordon had promptly installed a signal jammer next to the nuclear bomb, blocking the detonator's signal. But this only bought 11 minutes of buffer time. Bane had no patience to wait. He got up to kill Batman, but was blown away by a sudden burst of gunfire. It was Selina coming to support on a motorcycle. She had completely let go of her personal desires, and chose to stand side by side with Batman to protect Gotham. But even with everyone united as one, only 10 minutes remained on the nuclear bomb's countdown. Worse still, Tate had already damaged the bomb's stabilization device. There was no way to stop the explosion. Batman could only pilot the Batplane to hold back the enemy in the air, while Selina provided fire support on the ground. Soon, the enemy vehicles were destroyed one by one, and the truck driven by Tate also fell into the bridge. She herself was on the verge of death. At this point, Batman made his final choice: to sacrifice his own life for the 12 million citizens of Gotham. Selina looked at this great man, her eyes filled with reluctance, but she also understood that time was pressing. Batman had to defend justice with his life. Before takeoff, Gordon asked who Batman really was. People needed to know who their hero was. Wayne didn't answer directly. Instead, he said that a hero could be anyone, like putting a coat on a child, and telling him this isn't the end of the world. Then, after a loud roar, the Batplane carrying the nuclear bomb flew quickly toward the depths of the sea. Gotham's crisis was averted once again, but the city had completely lost Batman. Alfred stood in Wayne Manor, his heart filled with unspeakable guilt. He choked up with self-blame, saying he had failed to take good care of Master Wayne. But was Batman really dead? The answer was no. Although Fox had mentioned that the Batplane's autopilot system was damaged, Wayne had already secretly repaired it. He deliberately said the autopilot wasn't fixed before takeoff, just to make everyone believe Batman was dead. He wanted the Dark Knight to become a symbol of justice, forever etched in the hearts of Gotham's people. At the same time, he also fulfilled his promise to Alfred. Rachel's death had left Wayne in a slump for 8 years. He had never been able to accept the loss of his beloved. It wasn't until Alfred told Wayne that Rachel had always deeply loved Harvey that Wayne realized Rachel had given him up back then. Because he couldn't let go of his identity as Batman, now Wayne had finally come to terms with all the past, and fulfilled his promise to Alfred. In a cafe on a distant island, he shed all his identities and started a brand new life. The film ends here. Nolan didn't make this film a traditional superhero blockbuster. Its core is about how a person rises again from a low point, touching on the real situation of adults. This version of Batman has no trace of a hero's glory. After 8 years of retirement, his physical condition has declined sharply. He even struggles to climb stairs, and had his back broken by Bane. There's none of the agility of scaling walls and leaping over roofs from before. Instead, there's more embarrassment in the face of difficulties. Butler Alfred's worries are also very genuine, no fancy lines. Just a straightforward expression of wanting Master Wayne to retire and live his own life, all filled with sincere care. The characters in the film are all imperfect. Catwoman steals Bruce's fingerprint to clear her criminal record and break away from her past life, and Bane's cruelty isn't unprovoked. He believed that Gotham's hypocrisy needed to be paid for. This purposeful extremism is more in line with reality than pure evil. Conflicts in reality are never simply black or white. The ending doesn't follow the cliché of a hero saving everything. Gotham was under siege for 3 months, and Batman didn't solve the crisis alone. Instead, he persisted alongside the citizens. After flying away with the nuclear bomb, he chose to fake his death and left no promise of returning. What this film wants to convey isn't that one hero can change the world, but that the courage to stand up can be passed on. At the end, Blake finding the Batcave is the continuation of this courage. The fight scenes have no fancy moves, and Batman seems clumsy when facing Bane. But Batman has no superpowers to begin with. When facing Bane, he can only do his best, and this treatment makes it more realistic instead. Tate's twist is not abrupt either. Her hatred stems from the grievances of the previous generation, making the revenge plot more reasonable. This film is made for adults. It doesn't say that heroes never fail, but that they can stand up again after failing. It doesn't say that the world is always smooth, but that one must persist even when the situation is bad. The Dark Knight's rise doesn't rely on his suit or equipment, but on his persistence in going back to Gotham, even after having his back broken. This is the most authentic heroism. If you like my channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.